Yep, yep.
I have started the recording. Alrighty. Welcome to session 29. Getting dangerously close to session 30 where things are going to get crazy. But in the meantime, we have a little bit to resolve from the previous session. So, who would like to let us know what their character did last session?
L. Ross, with a few others, went to the school, and we learned. We took the recording device, and we were able to use a divinator to be able to find out more information. And to scare the heck out of the divinator, Ross decided to pretend to illusion himself into being drowning, which let everyone else find out that apparently. Lorpin was on the ship right before it exploded.
Yeah, that's a pretty big discovery.
Yeah, my jaw literally dropped when that happened.
That's going to lead to some consequences. All right, go ahead and take a character point. Good job. Who's next?
I'm struggling to remember very much about. I'm pretty confident I played Leica because we did that Deltaris stable meta aether, and I think that's what I'm going to choose to discuss. We tried and failed to coerce a statement from a ghost. I tried to help with that, but I was unsuccessful.
Yeah, you did get to meet the ghost. I do have a question about your meeting with the ghost. Did you record it with the crystal ball?
Who was in charge? I feel okay. If my memory serves me correct, we did record it.
I will say, Nest was lying through their teeth the entire conversation, which doesn't make for good evidence, which makes me think that it was not recorded. It was going to be recorded only if Nest was able to coerce something.
Okay.
Conversation with the ghost, yeah.
Is there a consensus that yes or no it was recorded?
Certainly, I recall we recorded the reverse time windy business.
Yes.
I feel like that was clear.
That is on the crystal ball for sure.
The conversation, I don't recall. Who was in charge of the ball? I don't think it was Leica. But maybe it was, and I had it in my hands the whole time, and I just don't remember.
There were three of you there, as I recall.
I recall that as well. I just can't recall who was in charge of the ball.
I believe Nest was in charge of the crystal ball, but Nest would not have been holding it during the conversation because that would have been something to explain to the ghost.
So I guess the question would be, was Elros, or I'm sorry, no. Wait, who was it? Yes, yeah, it was Elros.
Yeah, it sounds. Yeah.
Did Elros turn on the crystal ball to record the ghost?
Yeah, I guess we wanted as much evidence as we could.
So I'm hearing two yeses and a no from someone who wasn't holding the ball all the time. I think we're going with yes.
Yes, makes sense to me. Our whole mission was getting evidence, so I would assume that they did that. But Henri was not there, so.
Okay. All right then. So yeah, a character point. Who's next?
Oh, do I get one as well? Sorry.
Each of the characters, because everybody only had one character out last session, so everybody's character gets a character point. But I wanted to get a retelling of how you got that character point.
I guess Nest could go next. Nest went to the Slabrid Magic Academy where they successfully coerced the dean of divination.
Yes, that's right.
Into helping them rewind time using the necklace from the first mate, and unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, recorded and watched in full Lorpin possibly correctly murdering a guy and blowing up a ship full of weapons that were being sent to the colonies. Ness then also proceeded to take point in talking with the ghost of the first mate, who she successfully convinced was their kid, but was unable, despite multiple different avenues of attempts, to get much useful information out of.
And here's the crazy thing, is that ghost is now in the afterlife, proud of a daughter he never had. She's out there sailing the seas. You guys leave a trail of chaos in your wake. It's fantastic. All right, yeah, a character point for sure. That was awesome. Okay, so that's 3 so far. I think we got 2 left.
I'll go. So Mina and I'll fill in. Shari, I believe, was with me. Terribly snuck in to her extracurricular activity in the shipyard, but we still got away with going in anyway. For now, yes, we'll see what happens. But then, for anybody paying attention, it seemed like she was really just there to show off her ship, and then was going to accomplish nothing else. But did go through an explanation of what she's working on. But then she was able to retrieve the blueprints to the Salty Swine and bring that back.
Excellent. A character point earned. And then, last but not least, I believe Henri was up to something?
Yep. So, Henri went to the Thieves Guild to try and uncover as much information as he could. He tried first by searching tax records at the Wolf's Den, but wasn't able to come up with any leads. Then he went on to look through the membership records and kind of cross-referencing the names that we had gotten from our previous adventures. And he found out that there were some names, in fact, in our records, and that they were grunts from different mercenary groups, and they were doing under the table work for the government. So it's kind of like covert government ops, and they were kind of paid money to keep quiet. So that was the info that Henri came up with.
Excellent. A character point earned. All of this can be valuable information if leveraged correctly. For Lorpin Goes on Trial, not this session, but next session. This session, of course, the kids may do as they wish. But before we get into today's activities, a quick decision needs to be made about the evidence, because in the evening, as everyone's getting home from school, and by the way, don't forget, those of you who had characters that were in school, award them their experience points. If they need to make rolls, we'll get to that in a moment. But as they're having dinner, Gorham, the former sheriff of Oakbrine, comes to visit because Gorham needs all of the evidence that you've gathered. He has to submit the evidence so that it can be reviewed by the Justicar who will be prosecuting the case, so that both he and the Justicar can issue their formal statements to what they call assertions of truth. And Gorham can explain the legal process to you guys if you have any questions about it before you decide what to give to Gorham for your evidence. This does not necessarily mean you're done investigating. You can still learn new things and make new assertions. But the court does not run on surprises. Everything is presented beforehand so it can be organized and shown to the magistrates. And the magistrates will make a ruling on each assertion as to whether it is true or false. And at the end, the final assertions will be built upon all of the previous assertions, and thus will either let Lorpin go free or have Lorpin be either banished or executed. So with that in mind, what would you like to present right now, or do you have any questions to ask before you decide?
Yes, Nast is going to ask, what is the process of new evidence coming to light mid-trial?
That can occur, and that will delay the trial. Because, again, trials are not built on surprises. So the more time that we stack evidence, the longer Lorpin stays in jail, where, I gotta be honest with you kids, it's not good. The guards are pretty racist against the Anu, and Lorpin has been assaulted a couple times already in just the past 2 days. So we want to get Lorpin out as quickly as we can. Delays are not in our favor. Every piece of new evidence entered is about a day's delay at best, maybe 2.
I guess we can give you all the information we've found out, or whatever, and we can figure out exactly what you want to take, because this has gone to like a government conspiracy level.
All right. What do you want to give me?
I think you should watch the ship explosion. Prior to the ship and explosion and prior to it, and what do you think we should keep in? Because I think this is a lot deeper than just Lorpin.
All right, so you kids are going to probably not in front of everyone during dinner. I think that's probably something best done out in the courtyard.
Yeah, I guess if everyone's okay to show the sheriff the...
I feel like this is a bad idea, but I can't see any reason that Ness thinks it's a bad idea.
All right. So you show it to Gorham, and Gorham kind of sighs, says, well, this looks bad. This definitely changes things. If I turn in this evidence, then a lot of our potential defenses kind of evaporate. So I had prepared a lot of stuff about how they couldn't possibly know if Lorpin had caused the explosion, based on this idea that we had discussed that, that from the first day of your investigation, that the wreckage did not appear to be damaged by cannon fire.
Yes, but it looks like he was trying to prevent potentially killing of his own people from this.
Yeah, this clearly removes the "it might not have been him" defense.
Or does it? Does the information need to come to light? Maybe if we think it's strategically makes sense to not reveal this, then we could keep it under wraps.
That is a risk. And the risk is, if you kids are able to get this information, will the Crimson Guard be able to get this information? Because if they present it and not us, it looks very bad.
We had an advantage. But I don't know how... We had an advantage in that we had an item from the first mate that the Crimson Guard do not have. However, they could have reasonably done the same thing with a different item, I imagine. For as long as it was in that same area.
It's a gamble, and the reason it's a gamble is that the Crimson Guard is on a limited budget. So they might not be willing to spring for fancy magical gizmos like you kids have. The flip side of that is that this is a very high-profile case. A lot of people are very interested in seeing justice for the Salty Swine. So they might, for political reasons, put more resources into this than they normally would for a run-of-the-mill murder.
We also have, I guess it's a good thing this is recorded now. We also have a conversation with the first mate that you probably... It's complicated, it's magic, but if you want to see a conversation with the first mate that we had, it definitely raises even more questions about why were these weapons on the ship.
Gorham shrugs and says, I mean, we're already using crazy magic. Why not just show me the ghost?
Rolls through the ghost.
He goes, okay.
Also, just to be clear, not my dad.
Yeah, and that's fine. You're actually under no legal obligations to be honest when interviewing a person for a deposition. That's something everyone should remember, always. The interviewing persons are not required to be honest. So, with that in mind, showing this does show that there is some kind of extra activity going on. We could come at this from an angle that Lorpin's actions were not against a legitimate Celebran enterprise, business, or operation, but were against some kind of shady shadow thing. That has a risk. If it turns out this was officially sanctioned by the king, then the king's word is law, and Lorpin will have been guilty of acting against the king. That is an instant guilty sentence. Like, there's no coming back from that. However, if we can demonstrate that this is off the books, as it looks like it was, because they seem to have gone through a lot of effort from Henri's research there. It looks like they went to a lot of effort to keep this hidden in a way that maybe other members of the government wouldn't find out. So we might be looking at a rogue group within the government that did that. The government is not a monolith. It consists of multiple families and factions and the heads of every guild. So, yeah, that's something to remember, that when you see records like this that indicate they're from the government of Celebre, that does not necessarily mean they are from the king himself. They're from somebody using their position to claim the authority of the king. And that could cover a wide brush. Unfortunately, I will need more information about that to act on it. So we need to make a decision right now as to what I bring the Justicar. Do you kids feel like, and I'm trusting you with a lot here, do you feel like you can get to the bottom of what this actual mission was that Lorpin interrupted?
Whoppy walks through and just goes, easy, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah, is this including the information? Yeah, the information from the. Yeah, we gave them all. We're gonna gave them all the information, so that's including all the random group, like people, like randomly selected people from like parts of the group as well.
Yeah, and like the layout of the ship is super helpful because comparing that to the map that the Crimson Guard created of the ship's ruins, comparing that to the original blueprint will help them map out like what room the explosion was centered on, all kinds of information about that. So they'd be like, okay, it was definitely in this room, so it definitely must have been something stored here. What could have been stored here? Now, if we include your recording shows it pretty clearly. But it's also not impossible for magical recordings to be faked. So, I mean, that is the school of illusion. Illusionists, that's what they do, is they fake information. So having corroborating physical evidence from those documents, very helpful.
Yes. Also, those items weren't at the bottom of the ocean, so they must have gone back and retrieved all that stuff.
You mean like the rings and stuff?
Like the magical items
yeah.
that were in the ship.
That's something that's good on you to notice that. That's something worth looking into. What happened to all that weaponry? And here's another question. If it sank in the harbor, why were none of the people on board saved? Why was it reported as all hands drowned? Like, you guys literally swam to it, right?
Yeah, and the amount of bodies that were in the recording, it doesn't seem to add up to the number of people that were actually reported killed. If I'm understanding that, the recording of the sunken ship doesn't show as many bodies as there should be, or were deteriorated.
You guys have not looked into that. You only actually found one body while you were down there, and then you booked it right away.
Well, it would have been, yeah, it would have been in the, I guess they would have had scattered after if the ship exploded, yeah.
And predators may have done various things too. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
The body that you found was like basically like embedded in a corner by the blast wave. But yeah, I mean the any number of things could happen to the sailors. But you don't know. The bodies aren't there.
Yeah, potentially, if anyone actually survived the thing, they would have had to get like a bunch of stuff, name changes and stuff done under the hush hush.
So there's stuff that you guys could look into for sure. Gorham is basically asking, are you guys confident enough in your ability to get to the bottom of this? Now, I believe Wampy just gave a no problem. Was it, you said barely an inconvenience?
Easy, barely an inconvenience.
So yeah, if that's the case, then it would be better for us to put all the cards on the table so that nothing can be shot down easily. Of course, Justicar Nerida, Neriata. Justicar Neriata is going to have a field day with that recording of Lorpin going in. But yeah, so let me get you kids caught up on what's on the stack so far. At the bottom of the stack is that Lorpin must be banished, and above that is that Lorpin must be executed. This is a standard thing. You put the banished underneath, you go for the execution, and if the execution is denied by the magistrates, then you've still got banishment as an option underneath it. Above that is that Lorpin has no right to exist. To exist in Celebre, you must have permission from the king, because the king is too busy to personally issue permission to everyone. All citizens and participants in the Celebrean economy are presumed to have the king's authority to grant themselves permission to exist. So they're going to argue that he does not have the self-right to grant permission. And right now, because they, obviously as the defending attorney, they let me read the stack. Right now, their immediately preceding argument is that Lorpin is not a Celebran. They're going to argue that Lorpin is a member of the Anu Isles and has not have Celebran citizenship. I have some arguments I plan to present to counter that, dealing with Lorpin's participation in the economy. Unfortunately, I have caught wind that the Fishing Guild plans to issue a statement to the Justicars denying Lorpin's affiliation with the Fishing Guild. which will cut out my main way of demonstrating that Lorpin is a Celebran citizen. So that's another problem too. If they could be convinced to not do that, that would help out a lot. Above that is the notion that Lorpin has waived his right to exist, and that would be because of the assertion above that, which is Lorpin has committed murder, and the assertion above that, Lorpin has committed destruction of Celebran property. So right now their basic argument is Lorpin destroyed shit and killed people while not being a Celebran citizen, therefore having no kingly authority to grant himself the right to exist, and therefore he must be executed or failing that banished. That's how that'll break down if we can't do something about it. Yeah. I can't shoot down the destruction of property or murder arguments with this evidence, and the fishing guild is going to, if they're not convinced to be kind to Lorpin, because they're really pissed off about the sinking of the Salty Swine. Like, that's been a sore spot in their history for a while. So that's what we're dealing with.
Araxi's going to pipe up. The fishing guild like the Anu. And they would be really upset if they knew what the Salty Swine was being used for.
All right, then that pretty much settles it, that we need to show this evidence. Even though it destroys our murder argument, we need to reveal this, because that revealing this may exonerate Lorpin in the minds of the Fishing Guild, and if Lorpin remains a member of the Fishing Guild, Lorpin remains a citizen at least. And that gives us a lot more leverage in preventing his execution.
Yeah, now trying to find where these where this stuff is going to be a little bit on the trickier side.
If you find that you need a copy of, or you need to use this crystal ball to convince the Fishing Guild, you're going to have to go to the Crimson Guard barracks to get it from the evidence locker. They're not going to let you take it with you, so you'd have to take a guild representative there to view it, because once I submit it into evidence, they're going to keep it there to have there for the trial.
Well, because I can get another one. Easy, barely an inconvenience.
Love the enthusiasm, Whoppy.
To be fair, Whoppy does know the person who made this one.
True. Whoppy might be able to use their guild connections, actually, to have a duplicate made that retained all of the data. One thing you guys have not figured out yet is how to delete data from it, but yeah.
So we just need to find out exactly if these people, if they're surviving members of the ship that were not that were labeled as dead, how to find these people or prove that they didn't die on the ship. You also have to potentially find the magical items that were in the ship at the time. That sounds like it might either the Fox Den might know about it, or maybe, yeah, I don't know who else, any other den that might know about this.
Technically, the Wolf Den might, I feel like, just because it's so bizarre.
Trying to find a Wolf Den member is like
Impossible, though.
Didn't we try last
And
time?
they're going to be pure loyalists if that was a Wolf Den operation. You ain't getting nothing.
I don't know if it was the Wolf Den.
I think at a certain point you had a roll that was like, you can find out if it was Wolfden, and you don't even know if they were involved at all.
Yeah. I think the Wolf Den was where I looked up the tax records, but then I failed to find
Foxden.
any information.
Foxden. The Wolfden, you don't know where they are. No one knows how to get to them.
Oh, okay. But nonetheless, when I looked up the membership, I don't think that I discovered what den they might have been a part of.
So, when you were first looking up the membership rosters, you got 0 successes, so you didn't find anything. When you went looking for tax records, that's when you found out about all these guys being hired. You don't know if any of them were Thieves Guild or not. It looks like they were all from mercenary companies. The key piece of evidence that you discovered was that no two were from the same company. They were all from completely different mercenary companies, which is a practice that you use when you want people to be expendable and you don't want them to be able to team up and work together to maybe work against the mission if they don't like the way the mission is going. It's a way of sort of utilizing mistrust as a safety feature.
Okay. So it sounds like our strategy here is to try and present some sort of alternative narrative that explains why Lorpin did actually cause the explosion, but that there was good reason for it.
That it was not against the.
This is actually subverting a plot that goes against the will of the king.
Yeah.
Is probably our best tactic.
Was there any signing on the blueprint to the ship that said like who made it?
Yes. Quite proudly. It is not a name that you recognize or that appears to have any relevance to the case. The person is long since either retired or deceased. The Salty Swine was in operation for a very long time before it sank, too. The other thing that you guys could look into is Gorham now has the list of the magistrates that will be hearing the case. If you wanted to look into them and see if there's some way you can find advantage with them to vote the way you want them to vote. 3 have been assigned, and a backup has been assigned in case one of them is unable to fulfill their duties.
What causes them to not be able to fulfill their duties?
Death, serious illness, or a vote of the other 2 and the Justicar. The vote needs to be only a simple majority. It does not need to be unanimous. So if one of the other judges and the Justicar believe that one of the judges should not be there, then they can vote them out, and the replacement will take their spot.
Is there any way for people to choose the case that they're on?
No, they are chosen by a sort of rotation, so they just get whatever comes next when it's their turn.
Is there any way to interfere with that?
Maybe, but it would be complex.
Make another case happen sooner.
Yeah, something like that. Like you'd have to inject another case, and since this case has already been assigned, it's a little bit late. You'd have to simultaneously make like all 3 of the primaries and the backup like get sick or injured or unable to fulfill their duties, and then have somehow arranged for who's going to be next on the list. Also, they typically don't just rotate like now I'm doing it and then I wait for a while and then I do it again. What they typically do is they typically actually go for 4 sessions. In one session, they'll be the backup, and then the next session, they'll be chair of the people, session after that, chair of commerce, session after that, chair of the nation. Then they get a few months off before they come back up onto the rotation again. So
it's unlikely that would be fucked with for conspiracy reasons.
Are you trying to fuck with it, or are you trying to see if somebody else is fucking with it?
I'm trying to see if somebody else is fucked with it.
Gotcha. Okay. It would be difficult for somebody to do. They would need high-level government access.
I will say, one of them, it looks like the chair of the nation is part of mercenaries group. So we already know that they've had some level of involvement. So we might, anything could be happening here since the government's clearly involved. So I think we can assume that the cards are stacked against us, and we should try and figure out how we can, I think we need a multi-pronged approach here.
Is there a precedence for recusing oneself from the chair on a case that may involve them?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
That is considered proper legal doctrine. Is if there is sufficient cause for your peers to vote you out, then you can initiate such a vote yourself. And so a magistrate may say, I have a personal involvement in this case, and I believe that you, my peers, should eject me from this case. And then they can initiate the vote. They don't get to vote for themselves. That is one thing, and that's why the Justicar gets a vote, so that it's 3 people voting, so you can't have a two-way split. So they remove themselves from the vote, the Justicar takes their place, they have a vote, and whoever has 2 or more votes, like that side, gets their way. It is possible for the other magistrates and Justicar to decide that that their personal involvement does not make their judgments compromised. But it's also possible for them to decide it even without the person volunteering. So it really just depends on what's going on.
So, just at a glance, the one mercenary is suspicious.
So something to consider. And we're gonna fast forward and say now it's morning. You kids are ready to decide who's going to go on what mission here. One thing to do is you might want to do some research on all of them, figure out who they are, find out who their families are. These are all people on public record. None of these people are secret surprise magistrates. They were appointed by the king personally, not through some nebulous process, but the king in person hand-delivered the document saying, here's my signed document appointing you as a magistrate. For lords and ladies, this is kind of done to maintain the court, right? You award positions to people as a favor to a family or something. But this particular king is formerly a mercenary himself, and has a lot of mercenary buddies in a lot of different mercenary companies. So a lot of people have ended up as magistrates because of that relationship. Typically commanders whose mercenary companies have done something for him. You can presume from that information that if Commander Duros of the Flint Eagle Company is involved in this, he also has the favor of the king. So that would probably mean that the king did authorize this, which completely fucks your entire defense. So you might want to really cross your fingers that's not the case.
Yeah, let's hope it's someone high up in the government that's not the king.
Yeah, that would be the hope. Broadly speaking, the king's position on the colonization has been very hands-off. The colonies are not considered officially part of Celebre. The Anu Islands are the sovereign territory of the Anu. But Violithan has decreed that the guilds may operate there as they wish. And so the guilds have been operating there with some degree of separation from Celebran law.
Could we argue that they don't have jurisdiction and actually it's the Anu that have jurisdiction in this case?
Since the incident occurred within the Celebran harbor, it's very hard to say that Celebran does not have jurisdiction on this case.
If it happened at sea, maybe, even though it is a Celebran vessel. 2
Celebran vessels, by the way, because Lorpin was still serving under Lowendahl with a privateering license issued by Celebre to attack Corlanthe trade ships. Lowendow was not on board at the time. Lowendow was in Oakbrine visiting his wife, who at the time was taking care of a 5-year-old and 2-year-old child that are now much older. Those would be the Lowendell's kids that you guys met in Oakbrine, who most of you have not seen lately, except for Bax and Crystalzar. You've been seeing them around the Crimson Guard barracks. It looks like both of them have enlisted, and being older children, they're in some slightly more advanced programs than you, but you do see them on the exercise equipment from time to time.
I just thought when they first were describing, they said that potentially that Lorpin was on the ship when he made the order to blow up the ship. But if he was on the ship that blew up, how could he have made the order?
Yeah, that's another thing, is that up till now, like, you guys are the only ones who knew Lorpin even boarded that ship. The original assertion was that Lorpin fired cannons at the ship. Now, you had evidence to disprove that, but then you got evidence that Lorpin had personally boarded the ship and rigged one of the fireball wands in its hold to trigger from a severed finger, and then left.
Yeah, the evidence we found basically confirms the entire stack of assertions against him.
Yeah.
So we just need to prove that he did that, but it would be something that the king would be okay
That it
with.
was not against the king.
Exactly.
We don't have to
Right.
prove that the king would be okay with it. We just have to prove it wasn't against the king.
Yeah,
That's
good
true.
point.
As long as you can prove that he is both A, a Celebran citizen, and 2, has never acted against the king, then he still technically has the right of authority and can grant himself permission to exist.
Thinking about if we were to split this, if he was preventing weapons to be used against the Anu, then he in some way also prevented a war to potentially have gone out, because
Maybe. The Anu Islands are not considered part of Celebre for purposes of Celebran law, but the guilds are granted carte blanche to do as they will there. So if one guild decides to attack another guild in the colonies, then this is not a matter of Celebran law. Yeah.
Wait a second. Do you think this could potentially be some guild on guild crime?
I don't know how much the kids know about the history of Celebre, but any of you who've cracked open a history book detailing anything from about 15 years ago, well, no, actually it's about 30 years ago prior. So it stopped about 30 years ago. But prior to that, guild-on-guild violence was a regular occurrence on the city streets. Violathan's the one who cleaned that up.
Yeah. I mean, I think that our first goal needs to be to just unravel the conspiracy, and the second goal is making sure that the Fishing Guild does not do what they say that they're going to do, which honestly doesn't seem that difficult once they find out that they were being used, assuming that they were being used.
Particularly if it comes from somebody who's in good standing with them that they know, like, and trust.
I hate it because I have to split character points, but I think Araxi and Wampi are both needed for this.
If it
Francis
must
is going to be. No.
Oh, you're bringing up Francis. Ooh.
So we might have a triplet action, though. It's okay if Jackie, if you don't want to bring out Trompy.
I'm not totally sure who I want to bring out.
I'm going to bring Glup out, because I still also got another thing to do as well at the same time.
What do we feel like we need right now? party's filling.
Investigative skill.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Or brawn, maybe.
Definitely
I think
Trumpy
this
then.
is
Definitely Trumpy then. Investigation, Trumpy.
this really is going to require unraveling some records.
Yeah,
and
it's gonna
stuff.
be triplet time engaged. Let's do it. Fuck it. Trumpy's gonna be my strongest, most juiced character.
So, before we go any further, did anybody need to make any rolls for school from the previous day?
I don't think I had any roles. Whelpy is now a proper druid, though.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Got your shape-shifting, like, fully in there and everything?
Whelpy has it as a talent, and Whelpy has 3 points in potential.
Oh, that's amazing.
I like to imagine that Whelpy just meditated all day and then just had a perfect breakthrough.
I'm going to go through real quick. Bax. Does Bax have enough skill in swords and a physical attribute that you'd be comfortable doing one of the more advanced classes for Bax?
I'm looking right now to see if that's possible.
Looks like Crystalzar was at SAU. Did any of the university students need to take any tests to get into any classes?
What do I need? Do I need squad drills to do leadership training?
Let's take a look. Crimson Academy, here we go. Okay, so the basic stuff is sword, shield, and squad. Squad drills only require a fitness merit, and you can train leadership, the talents heads up, and rally. The merit test is a difficulty 3 perception plus leadership with a sword. You're basically learning how to work as a squad. The squad merits then actually split into more stuff. I have a bunch of stuff grayed out. I'm gonna select all and undo that. There we go. So squad merits split into standard squad drills and what they call home guard training. Home guard training leans away from just training like how to work as a team and moves into how to police the streets, how to investigate crimes, how to be a home guard version of the Crimson Guard instead of an away guard.
Got it. I think I'm gonna focus on more martial prowess type of shit for Bax.
Okay.
So I have experience points, and I'm wondering if I should spend them before doing this test. Because
Probably.
the expert sword drill is difficulty 7, and I don't think I can get that.
The two things you can do is you can either, you take the class, for one thing. While you're taking the class, you can use your experience points to get any of the cool training stuff that the class has. And then at the end of your training, you take the merit test to see if you learned enough to earn the merit being offered.
Got it. I mean, like, I'm looking at my aptitudes, just my raw aptitudes, and unless I can get... I don't think I can actually clear this test, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't think I have the raw number of dice to even roll to pass. I do have character points, and I could burn a shitload to start beefing up things like my vigor and agility, though. I burn character points into EXP?
That's a 3-to-1 ratio.
No, I mean like in the character sheet.
Oh, I don't remember. I interact with the character sheet so rarely from my perspective.
Where it says sped, you just type into that.
Another thing to bear in mind as you do the standard drills, have multiple merit tests, and you get to do all of those merit tests, so you can potentially earn more than one merit.
Okay, I would like to spend a big chunk of points on getting my vigor up to 3.
Ooh, all right.
Oh my god, that feels amazing. Holy shit. Okay.
That affects a lot of stuff, doesn't it?
And I still have 4 experience points left over, which I could put into melee, and that would actually give me at least the dice that I would need to pass this class if I hit every single one. Which I think I will do.
Right on.
All that training is finally paying off.
Is this your first time taking one of the standard drills?
I've taken sword drills, but...
Or are you still taking basic drills?
So, I was taking basic sword drills. I have sword tokens.
Yes, you do.
So I have the stuff to do the standard drills.
Okay.
I mean, I have enough to do an expert sword drill. It's the 3 sword merits and 1 fitness merit, but...
So if you're doing a standard sword drill right now, the standard sword drills do have a higher difficulty. It's difficulty 5, but you get to take 2 tests, and you can potentially pass
token?
both.
With 1 token?
So it costs a token to take the class, but then
I get to take both tests.
you get to take both tests.
Oh, hell yeah.
You can potentially turn 1 token into 2.
I would like to do the standard sword drill.
All right. Difficulty 5, you're going to do a Vigor plus melee and an Agility plus melee, both with pips from your best sword.
I have whatever they give me, because I haven't purchased a sword yet.
But you do have your Gunthar outfit, so you at least get that.
I do.
Bam! That's 5 right there.
So I passed the first one, and then the second one is not going to be as good, but that's agility in melee.
Correct. Close, but you basically broke even. So you didn't lose any merits for the day. You spent 1, gained 1, even out, and you got great training.
Does that earn me a mastery token then?
No, you need to do the expert ones to get a mastery token.
So I exchange that sword token for what? A guard token?
You exchange that sword token for a sword token.
Oh, so I just have the same number of tokens?
Yeah.
For swords. Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So that takes care of the school stuff. I didn't hear anybody else say they needed to make any other rolls.
I think I was trying to wrap my head around the SAU stuff. So if I'm doing, I just take a class, right? And then I need to do, for the cast shield to get in the combat spell safety training. Like I take another class, right? And then I'm able to test for that if I want to take it next time.
So if you're going to take the test, then the test is what you do.
Yeah. Okay. So for casting shield, because I don't have it, like I have it in a book. So, but I just roll my arcane for it.
Right.
To try to use shield, essentially.
Right. That's correct.
Okay. And then do I? Can we use bonuses on spells? Like, can we use costume towards spell?
There are magical artifacts such as staves and wands that are designed to do that. I don't believe your character has any, but I don't know for certain if there's something on your character sheet that is related to that.
No, the only thing we have is that magic wrist thing, which is something else. And then I have the Orin costume.
Okay. It is something you can learn to make here in the university. There's a crafting track for creating your own staves and wands and cool magical stuff.
Okay, the quality of the books is just the amount of spells they can store. They don't actually
Correct.
do anything.
They don't give you any kind of bonus. Yeah. Because the books are not actually magical. The magic is something you're doing. The books are a series of notes to help you remember what it is you're supposed to be doing, since what you're supposed to be doing is feeling a particular sequence of emotions with a very precise timing. This is why everyone's books are different, and mages can't really pick up another mage's book and have access to that mage's spells. You have to sit down with it and really do some math to try and figure out what they were trying to do and how that would relate to you, and sort of transcribe it over. With bad rolls, you can fail that and just have a complete piece of nonsense that doesn't do anything. But anyway, yeah, go ahead and make your roll to see if you cast shield, and then that will give you the check mark where you can start attending the dangerous classes. There you go. You successfully cast it. You are now authorized for dangerous magic. You still earn your experience point. You just don't get to learn anything specific there.
Got it.
But, yeah, now that's available. And boy, oh boy, there's some spells in there that you can put in your spell book that do crazy stuff. I think I have Fireball in there somewhere. All right, I think that's it. I think we're on to the mission.
I have a quick question related to what you guys were just doing. I believe Zara also had passed that test, so and at one point had learned one of the spells. Now, at this point, can she just learn any of those spells if she has room in her spell book?
Yeah, if she attends school, she can just go to that class and copy one of those spells into her spell book.
Nice.
That's what she did for that day.
So, the spell book is the level of the spell book. The number of spells in the spell book is it the level of the spell book times 2?
Think of it as like the number of spell slots, and a spell takes up a number of slots equal to its rank.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So if you have, like, let's say you have a quality 4 book that's going to have 8 slots in it. So if you learn, like, Fireball, that's a rank 3, that would take up 3 of those 8, you'd have 5 left. That's how it works.
Got it. So Zara has a level 2 spell book, so it's 4 slots. Got it. How do you acquire another spell book?
Money.
Cool.
You go to the market. There are shops directly across the street from the university because they know their business, and you can just walk in and buy them.
Awesome. Is that something Zara's not going on the adventure, or she wasn't on the adventure last time either? Is it possible that she could have gone to the store on a school day?
Yes.
Cool. How much does a spell book cost?
So you have to spend at least something on it. Yeah, none of them are free, but the quality of the book is equal to a resource check plus however many extra successes you get from money that you dump into it.
Cool.
As long as the amount of money you dump into it is not 0, then you get what you get. So make a resource check and spend at least some pocket money, you'll get that result. But if you want better results, yeah, dump as many gems and coins into it as you want. You can have up to a quality 10. There are not a lot of places in the world where quality 10 books can even be found, and this is one of them.
Cool. And the money we put into it, it's like pocket money is pips, valuable coins.
Pocket
Sorry,
money
go
is, pocket money is pips, valuable coins are dice, and precious gems are successes. You don't even have to roll them.
Okay. And a success is that a level of the book?
Correct?
Okay.
I believe you also allowed me last week or 2 weeks ago to make a connections check to get a spare one from somebody I knew at school.
Yeah, that's true. That one, the stipulation with that was that it came with a random number of spells already written in it that you don't understand.
So I think what I'm going to do is I have 1 resources. So I think I'm going to do a resources roll. I also have precious gems. So I'll add that success. I have 1 precious gem. So I'll add that as 1 success to whatever this resource roll is, and then we'll see how it goes.
Cool.
All right, cool.
So no successes yet, but then 1 for the gem. How many more gems or coins would you like to add into this?
Oh, you mean like pips? I could maybe add pips. I do have 4 pocket money.
Yeah, if you add, you'd only... Oh yeah, 4 pocket money would raise that 2 to a 6, which would be a success.
I'll go ahead and do it. So that's 2 successes. Does that mean it's a rank 2 book?
Correct, which would have 4 slots available. Or potentially, if you've got some coins, you could roll some more dice.
I'm now broke. Zara is broke. She'll have to go to work.
Some of your
yeah.
companions are recently very wealthy. If you want to discuss amongst yourselves what would be good for you. But yeah.
Cool. And so is it feasible that she also went to school that day and could have learned spells as well?
Yeah, the shops are directly across from the school for a reason. So you can pick up materials on your way into class.
Wonderful. All right, I think that's everything. And can you learn, well, I guess, is it possible, I probably won't do this, but could I learn multiple spells in 1 day?
1 per day.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So who all's going on this adventure today?
I think Choppy. We need like a researcher, big brain type of person.
I've read both Araxi and Wampy now, but Araxi really has 1 job. And it's a job that shouldn't necessarily take all day, so would you allow me to use Araxi for that job and then, like, get a half day at school or something?
Do you want to put Araxi down for chores and have him go do that job as a chore?
Because Araxi's whole job is to get the leader of the fishing guild to view the tape, essentially.
Oh.
And talk them into it.
Araxi's going to be at the fishing guild if they go to school, so yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Then it's just Wampy coming along.
Okay. I will need Araxi to make a persuasion check against the leader. And did we ever assign pips to that crystal ball?
You mean equality?
It's noted on Wampy's character sheet, and it was a quality 6.
Okay, so 6 pips to your persuasion roll.
Do I get anything for my previous work there, having gone to the fishing guild and showed off all my bruises and explained where they came from?
A lower target number, yeah.
Okay. Araxi is not great at this. Definitely taking Lorpin's pips as well.
I think with all those pips, you're going to automatically succeed, but...
I only have 2 dice.
So what was our goal aside from the fishing guild stuff?
To uncover the conspiracy on why those weapons were on the ship.
Yeah, figure out what was happening, and also maybe do a little bit of research on the magistrates that are going to be viewing the case.
I mean, we already. Well, I mean, we don't. So, I guess so. We have the information on the types of decisions that come out of magistrates based on their chair, but we don't know anything about the magistrates themselves. If we went off the information about the types of magistrates in their chairs, we're screwed anyway.
You do know the names of the magistrates now. It's in the Lorpin's trial document. You got that information from Gorham. Chair of the People will be Lady Alpenny Nantar of the Nantar Trade and Agriculture Company. Chair of the Commerce will be Lord Chamdrin Reedpage of the Rights of Properties Guild, and Chair of the Nation will be Commander Duros of the Flint Eagle Mercenary Company. There's also a backup on standby, Lord Beltos Ingram of Ingram's Goods and Sundries. Basically, you've got two merchants, a mercenary captain, and an actual lawyer as your judges.
Araxi had both of those dice were success.
There you go. Yeah, they apologize once they viewed the crystal ball, they're like, oh dear, okay, something was up with the swine. It's like, what did they do? There's still a lot of people who are angry, but they're no longer really angry at Lorpin. They're not sure who to be angry at yet. Hopefully you kids will figure that out.
Can we get full fishing guild in attendance at the trial in support?
The full fishing guild would not fit into the courthouse. Fishing guild
That's
is
kind
massive,
of the point.
But they will send guild membership to attend. It appears that Captain Lowendahl intends to attend as well. Even though he has an alibi and was not present, he was technically Lorpin's captain at the time. Alrighty, let me go back to my activity log, make sure I've got everybody. Oh, Kristen, which of your characters will be joining us?
France.
Francis, okay. Just assuming, unless you tell me otherwise, that the rest are going to school.
Yep.
I have a very good idea of what Glup is going to be doing. And then Troy, which of your characters will be coming out?
I think they're all. I'm sorry, but they're all going to be kind of useless. But I'll probably bring Chris Azar out, actually.
Okay.
Anybody who's good at talking could also be useful, other than investigation.
Yeah, I don't have. I think we just need to pretend that Reggie's here.
One of your guys is a Crimson member, right?
Yeah.
Would you want to become my lookout?
I mean, yeah, I can do that.
Just a heads up, Glup, probably your best opportunity to get in there without raising eyebrows will be when Araxi is bringing over a bunch of fishing guild members to view the recording.
Okay.
There'll be a big crowd. You won't stand out in that crowd. You won't be the only Anu. That would be an easy opportunity to slip in.
Yeah. I see you go to the Thieves Guild first.
which means you're on the clock. So you better go do that real quick. We'll go ahead and take care of your Thieves Guild interaction first. Is anyone else going with you for this?
Does anyone want to come help me find out some interactions? Because everyone has their because people that died on that day would potentially have to have new lives, so we potentially could cover these new people that randomly popped up and appeared around on the same day or a few days after. Which means the Foxes Guild would have knowledge on that.
Are non-Thieves Guild members allowed in the Thieves' Dens?
No.
But we do have a trench coat.
The trench coat largely works at the university because the university doesn't care enough to stop you, whereas the Thieves Guild actually does care about information security. It's kind of their thing.
Yeah, so I might have to go in by myself if there's no other Thieves Guild members.
All right, and you're planning to go talk to the one of the guys in the Badger Den? Is that right?
Badger Den?
Oh, are you doing research? I thought you were gonna do a forgery.
Oh yeah, I need to get some forgery done. But I also need, then I also had a quick. I was going to have a quick talk with the leader of the Fox Guild about potentially see if we can get some information about the missing magic items and stuff from the Salty Swine. Because
okay, you can absolutely do that. There's no problem with doing that. I'm just letting you know from a game perspective, so you don't miss an opportunity here. If you do anything other than just get the forgery, you're going to run out of time before Araxi takes the Fishing Guild representatives up to the court.
Okay, so I could do the forgery now, and I can come back after to...
Okay. Are you going to do the forgery with their equipment, or are you going to ask for help?
I'm going to hire someone to do the forgery.
Oh, awesome. Persuasion check plus however much money you want to dump into it.
I'll quickly roll my dice and then see how much I need to add.
The quality of the forgery will be the number of successes. Ouch.
This is Vendetta. Oh wait, that's let's see here. I have 8 pocket money here, so that 3 and 4.
Araxi,
7.
if you told Araxi about this beforehand, Araxi would donate some funds on this revenge.
So yeah, if I spend pocket money right now, I get 2 successes. And I'm going to be spending 8 gems.
Good grief.
Araxi will throw a couple gems on top.
Well, if you're going to throw in a couple. So
yeah,
if you
like
throw,
don't
like,
spend all 8. Araxi will spend split it 4 and 4, something like that.
This guy is
Okay.
a master forger, but he cannot accomplish more than a quality 10 item. So
Yeah.
No, that's why I'm saying 8 gems plus the 2 successes.
okay.
Yeah, so Araxi will spend 4 of those for vengeance.
All right. It is done. You have your quality 10 forgery. What does the forgery say?
I'm trying to think of
It's like a receipt. Like we're paying you to arrest this Anu?
yes, and there was a little bit extra for roughing up the Anu. And of course I have and of course I have all the 4 names wherever on the bill.
Very good. Who are you indicating is paying them to rough up Anu? Or are you indicating it at all? Signed, Mysterious Stranger XX.
Question. Which guild is, like, notorious in the colonies among the Anu?
So, kind of all of them. And this
Kind
is
of all of them,
this
but
is unfortunate.
yeah.
Really, it's the ones that are not notorious are the Fishing Guild. The Fishing Guild are the ones who really respect the Anu. The rest of them are pretty exploitive. The Teamsters, they like to just kind of usurp Anu land to grow crops, particularly cotton, because the climate down there is a little better for it, and it's a real cash crop. And yeah, there's not as much arable land around Celebre as one might hope for such a large city. So there's also like food, just food production stuff. Rights and properties, they love chopping up that territory and deciding who owns what. The mining cooperative even had a bit of a presence down there before they got ran out of town. Let's see, Thieves Guild does not technically have a presence there because they only officially police Celebre. That said, no one realistically believes that there aren't Thieves Guild operatives out there keeping an eye on things.
I'd say let's name some head honchos of the Teamsters Guild.
There you go.
Because I think that's the one that, like, both is reasonable and would not be able to get this evidence thrown out under it. They're not known for their forgery abilities, whereas the Rights and Properties and the Thieves Guild might be able to.
The other big one would be the Textiles Guild. The copper or the cotton growing there is of major interest to them as well. Yeah, that would be.
Teamsters are the ones on the ground.
Teamsters are the ones on the ground, and because they're the ones that are carrying all that cotton back here to Celebre to be processed.
All right, we'll go with the Teamsters Guild then.
All right. Very good. You have no trouble sneaking in to the barracks because there's a big crowd going with you with Araxi. But once in, you'll need to slip away from the crowd, and this is going to be a stealth check to get back into the locker room, and then a crime check to plant the evidence.
Can Araxi help in this by, like, doing, like, a distraction?
Yeah. Araxi was doing a distraction anyway, so you can amp up your distraction.
Yeah, Araxi's just going to, as we're, like, walking by, I assume, like, the guy who was in charge of the prison there is still there, right?
Yep.
Araxi's just going to, like, very loudly, like, because I imagine that the people with Araxi, like Araxi, are kind of protective of Araxi being small. And points like, that's the guy who threw me in jail. Just to rile them up a little bit.
One of the sailors leans over and says, "You know Anu can breathe underwater. Can you?"
I don't know if you want me to do a check on that or not.
Yeah, because then Glup can use those as pips.
Empathy plus leadership.
That's a good one. Makes sense for the situation. There you go, Glup. You got 3 pips for your stealth roll.
So let's hear some stealth. I'm going to spend 2 with the stamina for my gift of the lizard to get qualified on my stealth.
And with all the ruckus, you really only need 3 successes on this stealth. And then plant the evidence. Last time you needed, I think, like 5 successes, but this time you really only need 3, and you get to add the pips from your 10 quality forgery for this crime. So, the chances of you failing this crime check are minuscule, but roll it anyway. Let's just see.
So crime athletics, or was it crime agility?
It's I think. Well, this is planting evidence, so this would be cunning plus crime. You got in. You don't need to do any agility. You're there in the locker room. The locker is open to you. This is about you positioning it to look perfect, and you do. There you go. Evidence is planted. There's no sign that anything is awry, and you vanish. Back to the Thieves Guild. Meanwhile, what is Team 2 doing?
I mean, I'm assuming Chompy's doing research stuff.
Are the triplets going to stick together?
I would like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be wise.
So then the other question is, what is Crystalzar doing? Are you staying with the triplets, or did you want to pursue a different research path?
I guess it depends on what they're doing, because I think what I was going to end up doing is, if there's anywhere I can go to, I guess, look up information on the magistrates without talking to them.
You were given direct access to the court records, so you could just go to the court records room, see what you can see. You could also go uptown to the Nobles district, poke around.
I believe what the triplets want is to try and identify what happened to the people on the sandwich. And I don't know if Rights and Properties or Thieves Guild is correct there.
Thinking about that, is the goal of that to try and figure out who's behind all this? Because I do wonder, if we could try and figure out who's kind of behind all this, that might help.
Yeah, there's definitely a conspiracy here. We know that much,
Yeah.
All right, so some things your characters might be thinking of. They might be thinking, follow the money. Thieves Guild has records of the mercenaries being paid. Let's check to see who they were paid by. Where did that money come from? Those payments had to be taxed, so somebody else declared them as a deduction. See if you can find that deduction and go up the food chain that way. Another thing you might try looking for is physical evidence. Try and figure out what happened to the weapons. That's a little harder. 15 years have passed. Physical evidence will be hard.
I think financial evidence is better.
Financial evidence might lead to the top. Physical evidence gets us a bunch of magical weapons in our hands, but not much knowledge of how to.
We're looking for liberation, not weapons, so...
Tice makes an excellent third suggestion, which Francis is uniquely qualified for.
Talking to the dead?
Follow the bodies. Go to their graves.
Would I be able to do anything with that, with my animation talent?
Your animation is more about making the dead bodies get up and do your bidding, but actual necromancy, death magic, is absolutely in the realm of speaking to spirits. The kind of stuff that you guys had one of the professors do for you yesterday, Francis would probably be able to, at the very least, improvise something just from your expertise with death magic.
Awesome. Yeah, that would be cool.
You also may be able to call a senior necromancy buddy to come with us. And hey, we're going to go check out some graves. You want to come along?
Yeah, definitely. So do we want to kind of like split up, follow the money? Like, do we want to do follow the money or follow the graves?
Until
I
Gluck
feel like
gets back, you've got 4 people to split between those.
Choppy definitely needs to do the financials because I have no skill in talking to the dead.
Wampi has no skill talking to dead or financials, but is happy to go along moral support with whoever thinks they need it more. Which I would guess is Trompy.
How about we stick together and do follow the money first, and then if we have time, we can follow the graves? Because Francis does have some pretty decent investigation abilities or
Okay.
leadership.
Let's stick together then.
Cool.
Alrighty. Crystals, are you going to stick with the triplets, or do you want to do something other than following the financials? Do you want to do opposition research on, like, who these people are in court, or something like that? More characters focused on a single problem will give you a lot more tools for, like, helping each other and getting higher die rolls. But splitting up and handling multiple problems will give you a lot of broader ground you're covering.
Yeah, I guess the main thing I'm trying to think of at this point, like, just as a prompt to everybody, does anyone see a benefit in actually learning about the opposition? Because if we look at kind of how it's gonna go down, like, if they're following their like chair guidelines, they would vote against us if we don't have information. So finding out stuff about them isn't actually useful because they're gonna vote against us unless we figure out.
I think it would be useful only
evidence.
if we find out that they're corrupt.
Right, but like that just subs out someone for another person who's going to vote against us. Like at the end of the day, like looking at what Chrysalzar knows about the magistrates, like, and the chairs they're in, they like all 3 are against us currently, based on the evidence being presented. That's like, so unless we can present evidence that sways at least 2 of them right in the other direction, but just finding out they're corrupt doesn't really give us anything.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is Celebre. Finding out they're not corrupt might actually be the more interesting tidbit.
But the whole point of following the money is to figure out who did this, because it just needs to not be the king for the purposes of Lorpin's defense.
That's true. That would have been the only other benefit to checking in on the magistrates, because if we find out, like, that one note, right? Like, if any of them were directly under the king or whatever, it would be a problem. I guess for now, I'm sticking with you 3, and then if we see a reason I should split off, we can do it.
All right.
But what you're looking at is more important at the moment.
So where are you going to look to try to follow the money on this?
I suppose the Thieves Guild has financial records, so...
They do. They are not publicly available to non-Thieves Guild members. Glup will be looking into that shortly. Glup is doing something else at the moment. But later in the day, Glup will be down there doing some research.
Can we rendezvous with him then?
What's that?
Can we rendezvous with him?
Yeah, absolutely. What would you like to do in the meantime?
Maybe we should do the dead first and then the records, because then we'll have Glove.
That sounds good to me.
Let's go look at some graves.
Awesome.
Alrighty. So, one of the first things you want to try and do is figure out which graves, because you just wake up some random ghosts. That's not going to be particularly helpful. So, you're going to need to do some record searches in the various cemeteries. So, everybody go ahead and make a investigation. This is investigation plus focus, really.
I don't think you'll allow me to do the classic Whompy Vigor investigation.
No. Really what it is here is it's just about not getting bored, because you're going from cemetery to cemetery, reading a list of names to see if there's something you recognize. And if your mind gets just bored by the tedium of it, you're going to skip right past the name that you should have seen. So this is what we're testing here.
So you said focus plus investigation?
Yes. Focus
Do I
plus
get to use my erudite potential? Or no?
Yes, absolutely. This is 100% an erudite thing.
What about we stick together? How does that?
That's why Jackie gets to use the erudite, I believe.
Because she's got advantage.
How does that advantage work?
When you're doing something that one of your traits relates to, such as we stick together, then you can use potentials in addition to your skills and aptitudes, allowing you to roll sometimes absolutely silly numbers of dice.
Oh, so like Francis could use their death potential in addition to investigation and focus.
Yes. In fact, probably should. This is very relevant to that. Yeah.
I'm having a hard time arguing that solipsism or druid potential can be used here.
Well, solipsism probably could, although you might accidentally be creating the corpse instead of finding it.
Yeah.
That's risky.
Oh no, I made a corpse. Francis, Whompy made a corpse.
Do I get any pips at all, or?
Do you have any equipment that would give you pips?
I don't think so.
Whompy's done Whompy's job by being here.
Good lord, that was a bad roll.
Ouch. That's a lot of dice, too.
Does Whompy have an outfit?
I don't think Whompy's outfit has been destroyed. What was Whompy's outfit?
I did the worst.
Well, fortunately, Francis is bringing it in for the team. Francis, you have found the grave of one of the just random dudes. Not an important person, not a person of rank, just one of the random grunts that was on that mission.
Awesome. All right, so at this point, I guess Francis tries to harness his death abilities to speak to this person from beyond the grave.
Before you do that, are we sure there's a body in there?
Should we do a little grave digging?
Well, my thought was it's natural earth, right? And graves are made usually of wood. So I would be able to use druid magic to basically feel through the earth and see if there's a body.
Totally could do that.
Worth doing.
Hell yeah.
Because the worst thing would be like, oh, I didn't summon a ghost. Well, you know. What if there was no body there?
Yeah, that's a good call.
There could be. What are you saying? Like a coffin? Is that what you're checking for?
I'm checking, I'm basically just feeling through the earth and see if there's a coffin. If there's a coffin, to continue through the presumably wood of the coffin and see if there's anything inside. Essentially, I'm trying to see through the earth.
It's a nature-y kind of thing. Life and death are all part of the cycle.
It's a Whompy nature-y kind of thing. And because I have advantage of the situation, can I argue this is cunning and crime? Because I'm kind of trying to uncipher a potential crime.
You're actually trying to do this in a non-criminal way, kind of specifically. Yeah. You're specifically not digging it up. So crime, I would say probably not.
Investigation, then I don't have it. So it's still 6 dice.
Jeez. There you go. 2 successes, but that's okay because this is not a super powerful spell. Yes, there is a corpse in the ground.
Okay.
It's in a coffin. It's down there. Knowing that the corpse is down there, Francis does not actually need the corpse exhumed. Since you're not going to be interacting with the corpse, you're going to be interacting with the spirit that was bound to it. And has presumably been unbound by death, but there should be enough traces for you to do one of a variety of things. So I think we figured out that Speak to Dead, which lets you just sit down and straight up have a conversation with the corpse, is a third circle ability. I don't know if that's within the realm of what Francis is capable of, but a simpler thing, a first circle ability, would be to simply view the circumstances of their death. This will give you kind of a still frame of the moment of their death, so you can see how they died. You won't be able to ask them any questions, and it won't be animated. You're just going to see the moment of their death.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to go with that one because I've got a 2 for my potential.
Okay.
Does my role helping identify the corpse help Francis in any way?
I will say that yes, that can add pips. If you also have Delterra's stable meta aether, you can use that to give Francis straight up dice on the roll.
I have that. I can try to give 1 dice, right? Like that's the idea.
Yeah. If you have it memorized, you can just give a die. If you don't have it memorized, then yes, you can roll to cast it, and if you cast successfully, you hand the die over. What Delterra would actually do, one of the reasons she invented it was she would memorize it and then use it to give herself dice.
Yeah, Francis also has it, and I was actually just wondering, I was like, can Francis give himself dice with Delterra's stable meta aether?
If you memorize it, yes.
Yeah, I don't have it memorized, so
If you don't memorize it, then what you're doing is you're rolling to cast it, then taxing yourself, then giving yourself a die on the next roll, and it kind of doesn't add up.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, cool. So yes, you've successfully cast it. So you're going to be rolling 3 dice now if you want to try for the bigger spell. You also get the how many pips was that? 2 pips from Wampy's assistance.
Great. And then I'm dressed as Madala, who I would argue had a connection to the afterlife through Madala's speaking to the spirit. I don't know if that's technically considered the afterlife, but
Francis might not know that.
That's true.
Francis might well think that it was the afterlife. It absolutely was not. Madala was communicating with a blood demon from the outer planes. But Francis may not know that. That's probably not something widely known outside of the demons themselves.
Yeah.
It's not even clear that Madala knew that, since Madala was really only interacting with a vision of their mother.
Yeah. That's kind of where I was getting the afterlife thing, but I guess that might not have been wide knowledge. Madala wasn't necessarily talking about that with very many people.
What matters for the costume is what the child believes.
Yeah. I guess Francis would probably believe Madala was a relatively, magical creature. You know, it's a person that's able to transform into a bear, so just, harnessing the magical energies of Madala. Alternatively, I assume that you get a pip for that because it's effectively a trait. Because they play as that character. Or maybe it's the costume, I don't know. But I have another trait connected to the afterlife from my near-death experience from when we like jumped off the cliff or whatever.
So if you have a trait that gives you advantage, then you can roll your scholarship plus cunning in addition to your magical dice.
Oh, holy shit.
That can give you a lot of dice. Now, you will need to be able to pay a 3 dice tax in order to cast the 3 version of the spell, but one of those dice that you're going to pay in tax can be that die that was given to you by Chrysosar.
I almost feel like it's better if we just view the vision of their death, though, than talk to them.
Yeah, I was about to say, with
'Cause-
one, we see a static picture, so at least we know the environment they died, but speak to, we have to get them to tell us. And who wants to pretend this one's their parent?
I don't know. What do we have? 3 halflings, and what's Crystal's on?
Definitely Wompy. Wompy's the one.
A half elf, so I would have to hope.
Just going back to the ability to use scholarship and cunning, I believe.
Yes.
The tax situation, I would need to incur 3 taxes. One of them, Chris Lazar would need to be taking the tax.
One of them would be that die that Chrysosar has given you. But that's only if you're going to cast Speak with Dead. If you're going to view their moment of their death, you only have to pay 1 tax.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it sounds like we probably want to go that route. This is like maybe overkill, but at this point, if I were to go with that extra buff, I'm rolling 8 dice with 2 pips, so I think we're gonna get it. Might as well just go hard and hope that we get at least 1 success.
Yeah.
That being said, if you cast a first circle, can the tax be paid with that die still?
I will allow it.
Just to keep you, in case you need to do it again?
Now, remember, Chrysosar had to pay that tax to make that dice come into existence. So somebody's paying the tax, one way or the other.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at, because I wanted to make sure that was cool with you.
Wait, it's already paid.
Yeah,
Okay.
just giving you
Yeah.
that dice taxed, Crystal's on.
Right,
I
like
see.
in order for me to cast Stable Meta Aether, I had to pay it to do it. So like I've essentially paid for your tax. If you use it, I guess, would be the way.
Got it.
It's a prepaid spell phone card.
So the one option would be that I hold on to that if we wanted to do 2 rolls for whatever reason.
And, your next corpse you interrogate, you'll still have both your dice.
Got it. Okay, so I guess I'll go that route, which means I'm not going to add the dice from Chris Lazar because I'm reserving it.
The dice
Oh.
have been rude tonight.
Okay, if you're not going to use it, then Chrysosar can just eat that back and get your tax back. If you're not going to use it, then that stays with Chrysosar. Yeah.
I'm just holding it now, right? Like,
Yeah, you have a piece of stable meta aether for the rest of the day that can become a die towards whatever you want it to do.
Yeah, it depends on how lucky you guys feel. So it's either a D8 or a D7 roll. So I think
one
you're
die.
safe with
It's
D7.
1 die. And you have 2 pips, remember.
Yep. I've got 2 pips on there. D7. I don't think there's anything else we
You
could add
literally
to it.
just have to roll a 4 or better on one of those die.
All right, let's make it happen.
All 1s and 2s. Oh, no, wait. No, okay. Actually, you passed. Very good.
An epic roll for once.
So you see a vision of this man underwater, choking, because he's underwater, and there is what looks like a rescue diver helping them, except that upon closer examination, the rescue diver has put a dagger in their back. And that is what killed them. They might have drowned anyway. It's hard to tell, but they are in the harbor. Like, you can literally, in this vision, see the harbor lights up above in the city, shining down through the water at night. There's fire from the wreckage in little pockets of like bits of driftwood, but the main portion of the boat is frozen mid sink up there, and this dude looking around. It seems like there's some other rescue divers. You're too far away, and it's too dark for you to know if they're also carrying daggers to stab potential survivors. But this looks like a cleanup job.
Do I recognize any insignia or anything on the rescue divers?
Fishing Guild insignia, but that would be true of any rescue diver.
These are probably not Fishing Guild rescue divers, though.
Yeah, I mean, anybody can put on the rescue diver outfit if they're going to go rescue diving. The insignia more indicates that it's paid for and maintained by the Fishing Guild than that it's an official person of the Fishing Guild inside it.
Question: is there insignia on the man who died?
Yes. The man who died does appear to have some kind of tattoo. It is not a nautical tattoo. This looks like the kind of tattoo that a land-based mercenary would have.
Is it like identifiable with one of the known mercenary guilds?
Yes, and it is the guild that this guy was a member of. So there's nothing really disconnected about finding that out.
Well, I just want to know which one it is. Oh, I guess we already knew that. Never mind.
Yeah, you already had that information. This just confirms it. Yeah, so no new mystery there. The new mystery is that discovering that the explosion happened, somebody sent some divers down there to make sure there were no survivors.
It answers the question of why didn't they make it back if it was just in the harbor?
More evidence of conspiracy. I think now is an appropriate time for speaking with the dead.
All right. So we want to try pulling that one off?
That meta aether is still sitting there.
Oh yeah, you can take that whenever.
It looks insane to look at the piece of meta aether, but no normal person can see it. You have to have Delterra's toolkit active to really comprehend it. But conceptually, it's basically a toolbox full of Lego bricks that all do a different magical sub-function that you can kind of snap together to become almost any spell portion that you need it to be. If it's a simple enough spell, you can actually build a spell from scratch with what's in that toolkit. They're very handy.
All right. As far as the roll, it would basically be the D8 roll with the same scholarship, etc., plus the extra point from Chris Lazar, I think.
Yep, and then you need to find a way to pay 3 tax.
All right, so that would probably, and that has to be against my potential.
Yes, one of those will be the die that was that wasn't used, right? But then where's the rest of the tax going?
Did my previous roll incur attack?
Yes, it did. That was a spell.
Yeah. Okay, so I only have room for 1 tax then. Can I tax anything else, like stamina or anything crazy like that?
What would you like to do narratively to try and push the spell into reality?
I think, like, maybe realistically, it might make sense that it might be his focus. So, like, Francis is just trying so hard to, like, make this happen that he just focuses to the point of mental exhaustion.
Okay. I will allow you to do that with the stipulation that if you don't get 3 successes on this roll, the difference between that will also go into your health.
All right. And then, so that's 2 tax right there. because I only have one focus. And then is one of them from the dice coming from
Yeah.
Chrysalazar? Okay. So I think that covers all attack.
I imagine you still have those 2 pips from Wampy
Yep.
for this roll.
Assume so. So okay, cool.
The corpse hasn't moved.
All right.
Not that that's not within your power, just, yeah, hasn't moved yet.
Holy shit.
Knocked it out of the park. Yeah, this spirit is forced awake, climbs up out of the ground, is very grumpy. Who disturbs my slumber? Always wanted to say that. Who the fuck are you?
Might we assume Francis is currently laying on the floor exhausted? I don't know. Francis could engage, but he might be out of it.
So you were able to pay it. So you're not unconscious or anything, but yeah, your focus is basically 0 right now. So roleplay that as you see fit.
Wampy usually does the talking anyway, so Wampy will step forward and go, "We're here to avenge your death, but we need information."
Right on. You're a tiny little shit, aren't you?
Tiny, but Wampy mighty. And Wampy will raise Wampy's hammer with the appearance of being a little better than it is. As, like, just a show of force.
Yeah, bash your heads in. Fuckers came at me.
Wampy needs to know who hired you, who paid you for that mission.
Someone set you up.
Same fuckers that stabbed me.
Who were they? Or who did they at least tell you they were?
I said they was doing some kind of government thing. Supposed to deliver a bunch of stuff and then come home with a hostage.
Ooh, the plot thickened.
What sort of hostage were they looking for?
Some girl. Not sure. Captain First Mate is supposed to know all that. We's just the muscle. Then I find out we's not just the muscle. We's supposed to be silent as dead.
Yeah. How did they approach you? Wampy is taking notes as this is like Wampy's like has the calligraphy set up that Wampy bought. It just say they're writing this down.
To save my voice a little bit, I'll just sort of explain the arrangement. So they would not contact this gentleman directly. What they would do is they would contact the captain of his mercenary company, who would handle all the payment and would basically send this guy to go do the job. Right? So his captain would say, "Go here, do whatever they tell you, come back, and you're going to get this much money for it. And I will arrange all of the particulars." You find out that this guy basically, he met up at a pub where a whole bunch of other mercenary guys were gathered. They all got their instructions. Instructions were to take these weapons to the colonies, trade them for a hostage, some muckety muck's daughter, and bring her back safely. That was the job. But then, when the ship blew up, his claim is the very same people that were in that pub telling him what to do swam down there in a rescue vest and stabbed him to death. And he's very pissed off about it.
Kind of want to know, first off, who his mercenary captain was, and also, they met in the pub, did they represent anything other than being just from the government?
Yeah, so this guy, while he is absolutely a rat and a snitch and has no problem like spilling all the deets, unfortunately doesn't really know that much. So while from their perspective, you get all that information. This guy has no idea who the people in the pub were. He says government-y types. He doesn't know. He's guessing basically. He's got his own conspiracy theories. That's it.
He should know who his captain is.
He absolutely knows who his captain is. So you do get that. That is the captain of the Cardinal's Wing mercenary company. Cardinal is in the bird, not any kind of religious organization.
Whompy's going to genuinely thank the man for being such a great help and turn to triplets and go, Whompy thinks we know where we need to go. Get up, Francis, and pull up, Francis.
He stumbles like he's drunk.
Alrighty. So, up you pop. By this time, you think that Glup is probably done with whatever Glup was doing. So you guys can either meet up, or Glup, you can go do what you want to do with the Thieves Guild. If you wanted to stay at
Financial
separate groups.
records.
I guess we can have a quick talk because they have information about one of the guys that was killed now. I might be able to use that information to find out more, like, because he was on a payroll and stuff, and
He was. And now that you know, like, which specifically, like, the company, although you did have the list of all the companies, so it's not, like, that much more advanced than you've gotten. Like, you really, what you've learned here is that they were betrayed. That's the key point.
okay, then I guess I'll go to the...
Cardinal's Wing was always on the list of mercenary companies that you guys had. Yeah. All right, so you're going to the Thieves Guild archives. You're not going to be able to sneak everybody else in, so they can do something else to research while you look that up. But yeah, go ahead and make your investigation plus focus check. You may also roll scholarship instead of investigation if you wish. Or you can try and sneak one of your teammates in if you think they can roll better.
Or if I need to, I could potentially help get bribing.
If you trust that the person you're bribing isn't in on the conspiracy.
Well, I have connections with since I've with the Fox Guild leader.
Yeah, but he's not going to do research for you. He's going to advise you on how you can best do the research yourself.
Okay. I believe in my own guild. You know, I don't believe that like there's no currently anything of why they would like it.
Bribe away then.
So roll, then I'll add the dice after, or the money after. Because that makes sense, right? Yeah, I do some of my research and I'm like, hey, I need exactly these files.
You're going to need to get 2 more successes than that in order to get enough information to have like an idea of exactly who funded this from the top.
Sure, a couple nice rings will vanish from my inventory.
All right. Were those precious or valuable?
The highest one.
Okay, precious. All right. Then you find out that it is. So what you find out is that all of these mercenary companies, if you total up the amount of money they received, that total is suspiciously identical to a tax refund request from the Nantar Trade and Agriculture Consortium. That happened at that same time.
Who happens to be on
The chair of the people.
Why, yes, they do happen to be there. What a coincidence. Actually, it's Lady Alpenny. That is not the person that would have been in charge of Nantar Trade and Agriculture at that time. Same family, different person.
All right, I guess I'll get this for evidence.
It doesn't take much more research for you to figure out that the person who did it was her cousin.
All right.
Is he alive or dead?
What's that?
Is he alive or dead?
Alive. And it was her cousin by marriage, too, not a direct family member. But, yeah. Still part of the same trade group.
All right.
So now this is juicy. And so coming out with this piece of information, the question is, who do you want to bring this information to? Right now, you don't know much about these people, the magistrates, the Justicar. You don't really know who they are. So you haven't done any research on that yet. One other place that you might consider that was recently sort of introduced to the kids is there is a news agency that would have back issues of their newspapers you could sort through.
Sure.
newspapers? Makes sense. Also, bring this straight to Gorham. I imagine Gorham is still working on the case.
He is. Gorham is at the courthouse.
Yeah.
Basically presenting the evidence to the Justicar, and they're discussing what assertions the two of them should put onto the stack.
Yeah, I guess I'll bring it to Gorm, Lynn.
I think that Wappy is the best suited to run this to Gorham because Wappy is, like, not providing much in an investigation of archives.
Okay.
Alright.
So Wampy's going to make that run. We'll address that in a moment. What are the rest of you going to do?
If there's any more investigation rules, I can help with that. If we need to review any more data in more fine detail.
I had some trouble hearing
Can you hear me now?
that. Yes, much better.
If we do, is there any other records we need to sift through, or is that basically all we've collected?
So you've spoken with the dead and checked the Thieves Guild records, and right now things point towards the Nantar Trade and Agriculture Company basically diverting government money using their position as basically as lords and ladies of the upper class nobility in Celebre to divert government money into a secret plan. The details of this plan are not great, but it had something to do with exchanging money for a prisoner or a ransom, a hostage. Yeah, exchanging weapons for a hostage. That was the exchange. The exchange clearly never happened, but the newspaper might have records of what did happen. If you were to go back to that point in time in their records, or you could start looking into exactly who Lady Alpenny, Lord Camden Reed Page, and Commander Duros of the Flint Eagle Company are. The Flint Eagle Company, by the way, does not show up on any of the mercenary lists for any of the people involved in this.
When were they established?
Flint Eagle Company was established about 50 years ago.
So they predate this event.
They predate this event entirely. Yeah.
So I guess go to the newspaper and find out information about that, and see if I don't know if it's good to go for someone to go check on the cousin that issued these things.
All right, who's going to the newspaper?
I can go.
All right.
Francis will join.
All right, so we've got Wampy going to the courthouse, Francis and Trompy going to the newspaper, Glup and Chryslazar, where are you guys headed? Glup, did you also want to go to the newspaper?
Sure.
Okay. Chryslazar?
I think you mentioned we can go through all like the court documents, right? Like,
Yes.
I'll go to the courthouse and plan on doing that.
Okay. So you go with Wampy to the courthouse, but then when you get there, you split up and go to different places. All right. So Wampy, you deliver your report, and the Justicar immediately agrees that this is sufficient evidence to call for the removal of.
I was delivering this report only to Gorham.
Oh, only to Gorham.
Explaining. Only
Okay.
to Gorham.
I mean, Gorham. So Gorham's going to look at it for sort of a moment and be like, I don't know if we want to remove them.
Yeah, that was kind of my idea, is that we don't necessarily want to remove them yet, that we are investigating this further, but here's the update. We may need your help in something, possibly even a delay, because of paperwork, because yes, it would suck for Lorpin to be in there another day. However, this goes way deeper.
Okay, so he says, all right, I'm going to consider that. He says, one thing we need to be careful about is that the stack is resolved top to bottom. So if we submit a request to the stack to have a judge removed, and then other requests are submitted on top of that, the judge will not be removed and will rule on the other requests until we get down to that point in the stack.
This needs to be a last-minute
Yes.
addition.
That's, of course, it's the last minute, the last thing we do. If we do it at all. And I say that because, from what I'm hearing, Lady Alpenny is very much a stickler for the law, and might actually be somebody we want if things are going to get technical.
Crystalzar's doing more research on that. We're also doing research on the... I've basically just given him the update on everything we know right now.
Awesome. Crystalzar, go ahead and make your investigation or scholarship plus either cunning or focus or perception. You've got lots of options here. Pick whichever one's going to give you the most dice and scoop up as many pips as you can, because every success will give you another character of your choice fully revealed in all of their detail.
I don't think I have any way of pippage, but I can try to get the most dice possible.
Up to 4 successes can potentially reveal information here.
I imagine my conversation with Gorham takes too long for Whoppy to get over there and help.
Yeah. Especially since you guys are not letting the Justicar know. If you just ran in and told the Justicar and then ran out, maybe. But keeping it on the hush-hush means you've got to arrange for him to separate into a separate room where they know they're not listening in, and then you can tell him that kind of stuff.
The whispering at the bench, must be quite a sight seeing a halfling child whispering it to the main defense lawyer.
Celebre, it's unusual to see a child. That's the key. But Celebre is such a broadly cosmopolitan city that there are species from across the planet present. To see an Anu, socializing with a skull, the size differences are, crazy. One's a little frog person, one is a giant wolf person, but this is the place where it happens.
Also, if anybody asks about Whoppy, Whoppy introduces himself as a paralegal, essentially.
All right, Crystalsar, there are 4 characters here. You've got 3 successes, so you can pick 3 of these characters to learn everything about. Who's up first? You're going to learn, their voting tendencies, everything. These people, you can learn them inside and out.
I was just trying to find the,
the document. Yeah.
Well, I figure we want to know just, I guess, everything about the current chairs.
Okay, the 3 chairs, and you don't really care about the backup? If you choose to remove Lady Alpenny, then the backup, Lord Belros Ingram, or Intarum, Lord Belros Intarum, will take her place. So that's the reality of that situation.
I mean, if I may make a suggestion, learn about them one at a time and then decide who you... If you want to look at the back of her.
The only reason I'm trying to think is I was narratively in there, or not narratively, but given the, or in character, I wouldn't know what you just learned.
Well, you would know what I just learned, but what I'm saying is that when you you aren't reading 3 books at once, or 3 separate people's records at once. You can look through one, decide if you liked that or didn't like that, and then if that would be worthy of checking on the backup. I don't know if
that's true. I guess also in the grand scheme of things, based on what we learned so far, we'll hit them one at a time, I guess. So I'd want to start with the Nantar.
Okay.
I think regardless.
Lady Alpenny Nantar is a member of the Nantar Trade and Agriculture, which is a merchant company that does a lot of overseas trade. They have holdings in the colonies. And they work very closely with a lot of the different guilds, but Lady Alpenny herself does not involve herself in the business of that company. She has maintained a very strict and very serious study of the law ever since receiving her appointment, which appears to have been given to her primarily because she was disinterested in her family business But the family, being of high status, needed her doing something and not being idle. So they petitioned the king to give her an appointment to something she was interested in, which was the law. He awarded her a position as a magistrate, and she dove in and has become a preeminent legal scholar, knowing probably as much about Celebran law and case history as anyone else in the city. You do see, although you don't get much information about Lord Shamden Reedpage from this directly, you do find out that she has some kind of a social relationship with him. They are colleagues that respect each other very much. But she is broadly respected by the Justicars and the general legal profession. And while she is not officially a member of the Rights and Properties Guild, she does have one of those little honorary cards that gets her access to their records. You do get the sense that she is the sort of person who might just recuse herself if she finds out that her family is involved. Like, she's absolutely a stickler to the law and an expert scholar.
Okay. Okay, so definitely the commander next.
Commander Duros is an old soldier, long past his prime, but his company, of which he was not the original commander during its founding, but he became a commander like maybe 10 years in, and eventually took over the whole company. He's since passed the company on to younger membership, but because of the service that he's performed directly for Violithan at Violithan's request, including having troops present at the Battle of Garathan to fend off the demon hordes in the north, this guy was awarded as a personal gift from Violithan, without even asking for it, was awarded this position as a sort of honor to maintain his reputation and kind of to keep him active, so that he's not just like wasting away in some villa somewhere. He does take his duties seriously, but knows almost nothing about the law and leans very heavily on his fellow magistrates to find out what he should do. So he is almost certainly going to be just asking the most scholarly magistrate in the room what their opinion is, and then just following it.
It's fantastic.
The dude's like 70 years old. And he wears, at least according to the records you've seen, like he's known for wearing like a dress uniform, as though he's still a military man when he comes in to sit down as a magistrate.
I like to think it's because he doesn't want to think about what he has to wear every day. He's like, I've been wearing this for the last few decades. Why not just keep it up?
To him, it's the most meaningful uniform he's ever had. It represents his past, it represents his service to Celebre, it represents his loyalty to Violithan. There is some, if you go back far enough, there's some messy history, because Violithan at one point was part of a mercenary group called the Mordicans that attacked Celebre, went to war against the Crimson Guard. They were defeated, the leadership was to be executed, and while most of them were, some of them were never quite caught, and disappeared into the hills, and later showed up near Garathan as part of Caileron's army when the demon god went on his rampage. The rest of them were, they were beheaded, except for Violithan, because the blade broke on his neck. He then got up and basically fought his way to the palace, took the crown, sat on the throne, and no one has been able to challenge his rule over Celebre since. Weirdly, Violithan cares deeply about the people of Celebre, and the whole reason he was attacking the city was because he had a grudge against the way that the guilds were treating the people. He considered them exploitive. He slaughtered a lot of high-level guilds people in his day. And then about 30 years ago, everything cleaned up, the guild started working properly, and he sat down and has been pretty much in the background, not really doing anything ever since. His dogs come out occasionally. They run off supernatural threats. He has 2 fire-breathing dogs. They're, at least everyone around here calls them dogs. If you're from northern Talus, you know that these are Cilician wolves. They are these black-furred wolves that are native to the forests around Talus. But that's way far north. Down here in Celebre, people are like, oh, it's a neat dog. Do they all breathe fire like that? They do not, by the way. Well, I mean, his do, but normal wolves do not breathe fire. His are special. Anyway, yeah, so that's everything about Duros of the Flint Evil Company. You've got one more.
Yeah, and I think... thank you, Viv, for stopping me. But I think regardless, no matter what, I think we can make some inference about Reed Page. So, knowing that Alpine could potentially recuse herself, just as a thought, it would probably be good to know about the backup.
Lord Belrus Intarim of Intarim Goods and Sundries is a merchant that is entirely self-centered, completely disinterested with law, considers his position to be one to enhance his company, and doesn't seem to pay much attention if the case doesn't involve some kind of threat to commerce. His company does not do any overseas shipping. It purely does buying and selling within the city. It's basically an arbitrage company for physical merchandise. Yeah, very, very little respect for law, precedent, or procedure. The issue with the chairs is you're supposed to be representing the interest of that chair, and this guy, no matter what chair he's sitting in, he acts like he's in the chair of commerce.
Seems like it might be great if we don't allow this backup to make it on.
As far as the law is concerned, I almost feel like that's technically a good thing, because the chair of the people should be concerned with murder, and that occurred. And if the chair of the people was no longer caring about murder and only cared about in Celebre commerce, then it wouldn't matter. It sounds like a good idea to replace her. But we can talk about it more, obviously.
This is, I think, the nighttime conversation with Gora preparing for the trial.
Yeah, we'll do that later. But
all right, then
we have the info.
We've got one last thing to do, which is the newspaper group. They recognize you kids because they recently ran an article about the incidents that occurred with Araxi. And they have a sort of expose on the treatment of the Anu within the city that they're getting ready to publish. So at first when you arrive, they think you're there to be interviewed about that. Which of course you're welcome to be. But also, if you want to do some research on their back entries, then you'll need to go ahead and make either a scholarship or investigation check. I will tell you in this instance, because you are looking into histories, scholarship will have a lower difficulty number.
Nice.
I'm not good with the scholarly stuff. I guess I'll just fill up the newspaper. I'll tell them all about like the hardships of the Anu and stuff, especially like with what the incident that was before where people are selling like off-brand Anu items on the docks and stuff.
Excellent. That adds some real flavor to the story.
So scholarship in what?
Focus or cunning either one would make sense.
Do I get to use my erudite potential since Francis is with me?
100%. What could be more erudite than sorting through old newspapers to get a sense of the history of the times?
Can anyone give me some pips here? I would love some pips. That'd be great.
I'm considering for Francis that Francis has leadership capabilities too, so I'm wondering if I could like be kind of helping direct Trompy.
Especially since your focus is shot. That's a pretty good idea, yeah.
Cool.
Kind of like looking over Trompy's shoulders and catching what Trompy misses.
In fact, if you want to make a vigor plus leadership, you could just keep bringing Trompy coffee.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I like that idea.
Trompy's got a lot of newspapers to read.
I do.
At least you know the time period. You can zero in on that pretty well. The trick, of course, is that newspapers here, that there is no printing press. What they have is they have magical quills that can like write a bunch of copies all at once. So newspapers are not something that like everybody buys. What it is that wealthy people will buy them, of course. But generally what will happen is neighborhoods will collect a little bit of money from everybody in the neighborhood and then turn over that big pile of money to have a newspaper available for the neighborhood to read in some like open public place. The Little Oak Rind, for example, this would be at Grammy's restaurant. So Grammy would have in one corner of the restaurant would be the paper of that week. They are issued weekly, not daily. Again, no printing press. So yeah, it's a lot of work to get one assembled, and it takes these guys the entire week just to get the weekly issue out.
I know what Trompy's going to invent and patent next.
But so you trying to target the right week. You've got to find a week where the events will have happened, but then there's been like some time for the news of them to filter here to Celebre, then get into a newspaper, and then get published.
So, in Francis's leadership help, does our "we stick together" trait impact the role at all?
Yes. If you have a relevant, potential that you could apply to that role, then "we stick together" would let you apply it. In the same way that Trompy's applying the erudite potential for this.
Got it. Yeah, I don't think in this case, because first of all, it's already taxed out, but his potential is death.
Yeah, not exactly relevant for sorting through newspapers. You could make the loose argument if you're reading the obituaries, but kind of not really.
You could be some really weird coffee that you're running if you use your death potential.
Yeah, the beans are overcooked. That's the excuse.
It's coffee with so much caffeine it might kill you. I think that's 3 pips then if I rolled 3 successes.
Yeah, that's correct. Good grief. Okay, so you brought the right halfling for the job. Holy crap.
Yeah, Trumpy has a scholarship of 5, so
That's awesome. Okay, so you learn exactly what went down in the colonies. 15 years ago, a Corlanthi mercenary company went kind of rogue, set up a little fortress in the Anu Islands, and kidnapped some people from some local plantations that were growing cotton and fruit. They amongst the kidnapped were some high-profile family members of some Celebran merchant families, including a daughter of one of the managers of the Nantar Trade and Agriculture. You're able to piece together from your information that almost certainly what happened was Nantar redirected some money, tried to hide it using their political connections to make it look like a government job, and basically were trying to send a shipment of weapons to this Corlanthi mercenary group, which would almost certainly be used against the Anu and Celebre if they had gotten it. But as a consequence of not getting their ransom, they murdered all of the hostages. And then started cutting off their body parts and displaying them around the Anu Islands. Flipping into later years, you find that a couple about like say 6 months after the explosion of the sandwich, the head of the Nantar daughter was sent back. About 6 months after that, so about a year after the incident, her right arm was also sent back to Celebre to the family. And then maybe like 2 years after that, a torso that was never confirmed to be hers, but was still used in a proper burial, was brought back. It was so rotted that there was no way to confirm it was her, the way that the head and hand were confirmed. But that's it. The head and the hand were sent. So the head was sent as a warning from the mercenary company with like a threat saying you shouldn't have fucked with us. The hand was sent by a traveling merchant that said, I encountered this on display in a village and recognized it, and I have brought it back to you so that you can have it because it rightfully belongs here. The torso was brought by an enterprising adventurer that wanted payment and received payment despite the fact that they were unable to confirm the identity of the torso. And so that's the condition and the events that happened that you find out. But you all
fucking intense.
You rolled really high. So you also get a little bit of subtext about what happened after this for that mercenary company, which is that they went feral. They were because they went rogue, they were not really representing Corlanth anymore either. And so they lost access to their food shipments. So they started raiding the Anu Islands. They didn't have the weapons that they were going to be sold to do those raids. So the raids generally failed. They lost a lot of people, and they sort of kind of like got sick and starving and disappeared into the jungles. Now, 15 years later, they're basically gone. They've been swallowed whole by the disease and wild animals and just general jungliness out there.
So,
What I'm hearing is that Troppy just blew this case open.
Oh yeah.
yeah, it sounds like a royal family almost aided in
Sedition.
arming enemy state.
Almost. And they were stopped by an Anu that just snuck aboard their ship because something was suspicious, got frightened, and blew it all up. A big question is how much did Lorpin know?
At this point, it's imperative that Lorpin does not testify in his own defense.
100%.
Correct.
Yeah, I guess we got all the information we need, and we can wait to tell Gorm when we meet up at nighttime.
Well put, yes. Yeah, so that's basically it. You meet up with Gorham, you share the information in a private area, or back at the orphanage, however you want to do that. Gorham says, "Holy shit, I got a lot of paperwork to file before the trial tomorrow. Thank you, kids." He gets copies of the newspaper articles. The only thing that you're not able to supply him with is the testimony and the sort of scene of being stabbed underwater of that one guy, because you'd already turned over the crystal ball before you went and talked to that ghost. But
Whoppy asks to be on the witness stand to recount that.
Yeah, Wampy was there.
Whoppy did the talking because Francis
Yeah,
was.
because Francis was passed out. Yeah, so Gorham says, "Yeah, that's not a bad thing to do. We should probably be interviewing more ghosts about murders. This is actually really helpful. I can't believe this isn't done every time."
It would make the close rate really high.
I mean, presuming the ghosts don't lie to try and control the outcome, but we've got a whole tower of necromancers over there, right? The actual necromancer population in the university is actually quite small, particularly compared to the other schools. But he's not wrong. They could be doing more.
They don't make necromancer beads, like little magic beads that just do the necromancer spells.
No, they do not.
In fact, if it would help in any way, Wapi would load their calligraphy set to Gorm, if he does not already have one, and offer to stay up and help run paperwork.
Okay.
I imagine that just means that I would actually take stamina attacks tomorrow.
Yeah, so you'll take 2 stamina attacks and you won't heal anything. Yeah, there you go. You pull an all-nighter.
Yeah. I don't know how much that helps score, but it feels like something Wapi would want to do.
Yeah, and you said that you said the paper river. How much does it normally cost for them to print, for people to get access to it?
Oh, the newspaper, it's like a 10 gold per issue kind of thing. It's actually kind of expensive. This is because of the sheer amount of manpower that has to go into getting just a single copy done.
Out of curiosity, when does this paper come out next?
Great question. Let's see.
Because it could conveniently happen during the trial. That might rile some people up.
It's going to be 3 days after the trial that the next issue comes out. So there is enough time they could get some trial information into a small section of that issue. They usually need, though, a week's ramp up to get... They start okay, here's the plan, we got all the things, we get them written out, and then we start making copies. And we just spend a week making copies and copies and copies and copies to satisfy all of our customers. It's It's like one person can write about 10 copies at a time with the magic quills, but then, it's like, all right, and then we got to start over. And you got to check to make sure that none of the batches done have any major errors that can't be fixed. A printing press would definitely help them, but they have no idea what that is or what it possibly could be. Alrighty, well, I think we're done for the night. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and we'll pick up next week with the Trial of Lorpin.
Which is looking really much better now.
It is. I know I kept telling you guys you don't have to do anything. You can go and do other things and just wait for the trial. But I really am glad that you fully explored the mystery and got to learn all the juicy details.
Also means that Araxi's backup plan, which was to launch a prison break, does possibly not have to happen. Although we still have to see how the trial plays out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you found a lot of good evidence, but it's not a sure thing because the trial's not necessarily about like, did Lorpin do the right thing? The trial's going to be about a bunch of weird technicalities about the legal definitions of citizenship and your right to exist in accordance with your personal ability to act as your own king, to grant yourself permission to be in the city, stuff like that. So it's going to be wild.
Yeah.
Have your best speakers ready to speak.
Yeah, especially what if they find that strange evidence, which might counteract the deposition by arresting officers.
And they've found more evidence than maybe you wanted them to find. Because actually, here's a great cliffhanger for us to leave on. Looking through the new stack at the end of the night, Gorham does mention, it's like, oh, and apparently they found 3 treasure chests that they're claiming Lorpin buried after he looted the vessel. And that we'll leave on that.
Huh.